to host today one of Africa's most illustrious scholars, the esteemed Professor Toyin Alola, a global intellectual icon whose scholarship has profoundly shaped our understanding of African history, culture, and civilization. Professor Falola's voice has consistently amplified the depth and dignity of African knowledge systems, and we are grateful to have him grace this stage with his insights and wisdom. Africa is not a continent without knowledge. Long before the advent of Western science, our ancestors engaged in sophisticated agricultural practices, architecture, medicine, metallurgy, astronomy, and environmental management. These were not just cultural expressions, they were systems of knowledge rooted in observation, experimentations, and innovation. As Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, a renowned Senegalese historian, anthropologist, physicist, and Pan-Africanist, succinctly put it, science is not a Western invention, it is a human pursuit. In our modern world, where rapid technological advancement often overshadows indigenous knowledge, today's theme invites us to reflect on the wealth of scientific and technological wisdom embedded in our ancestral heritage. It challenges us to reconsider the foundations of our development and to ask, what can we learn from the past that can meaningfully inform our future? It compels us to re-examine the often overlooked reservoirs of indigenous knowledge that predates colonial narratives, embodies ecological wisdom, architectural brilliance, and methodological ingenuity and sustainable practices indisputably relevant to addressing today's global challenges. As a university with a strong foundation in science and technology, KNUST-TEK continues to advance the frontiers of innovation while anchoring its progress in its rich cultural and intellectual heritage of its ancestors. In this era where modern development is increasingly called to be inclusive, sustainable, and contextually rooted, we must engage with our ancestral science not as relics of our past, but as living systems of knowledge with transformative potential. This lecture promises to be both a reminder and a challenge. A reminder of what we have inherited and a challenge to integrate it meaningfully into contemporary development strategies. As an institution, we see today not only as an academic gathering, but a moment of intellectual awakening, an opportunity to bridge generations of thoughts and to catalyze new directions in research, innovation, and cultural affirmation. It is an opportunity to affirm that science and technology are not only matters of mind and cause, but also of culture, history, and identity. Let us be reminded of this African saying: we are the ancestors of the future. What we do today must honor those who came before us. Our expectation is that this lecture will spark new ideas, foster meaningful dialogue, and inspire collaborative efforts across disciplines and generations. It is our hope that we will carry forward the ideas that will be shared here into our classrooms, laboratories, communities, and policy spaces. As the sample fabric teaches us, it is not wrong to go back for that which you have forgotten. Once again, I welcome you all and thank you for being part of these great events.
Thank you so much, Prof. For our renowned scholar to catch a glimpse of our culture and tradition, let's take a musical interlude and it will be done by the Center for Culture and African Studies, CCAS. Round of applause for them. Indeed, let's protect our trees. If all the tree dies, indeed, we are all going to die. Round of applause for Sita's band. To introduce our speaker for the public lecture today, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome the head of Department for History and Political Science, Professor Edward. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Chair, please permit me to stand on existing protocol already established as I do the introduction of our speaker for this moment. Tony Falola, PhD, is the Jacob and Frances Senga Chair in the Humanities, Professor of History, and University Distinguished Teaching Professor at University of Texas, Houston. He has served as the clerk chair of Countries and Culture of the South at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. He is a celebrated author, editor, writer, academic leader, organizer, teacher, Pan-Africanist, and a visionary of extraordinary grace, talent, and accomplishment. As an author and an editor of over 100 books on Africa and the African diaspora, he is invited to speak on all continents and in over 66 countries. He is today widely proclaimed as Africa's prominent historian and one of the continent's most decorated scholars. He managed several distinguished scholarly monograph series and served on the board of many journals. And a global icon in African studies, Tony Falola has received 26 honorary degrees, doctorates, most recently from University of Victoria. He's a fellow of Nigerian Academy of Letters and a fellow of Historical Society of Nigeria. He received the Distinguished African Award from the African Studies Association USA and the Lifetime Center Award from the Canadian African Studies Association. Professor Falola has received various awards and honors in multiple parts of the world. At the University of Texas, Austin, he received the James Holloway Award for Teaching Excellence, the Texas Excellence Teaching Award, the Chancellor's Council Outstanding Teaching Award, the Outstanding Graduate Teaching Award, the Career Research Excellence Award. He has also received African titles, including 3 over 20 titles, most notably the Boba Pitan of Ibadan and Boba Pitan of Ndokido. An annual international conference, TOFA, Tony Falola Annual Conference on Africa and African Diaspora, has been named after him. It is held every July at a major African university. The Tony Falola Prize named after him is one of the prestigious awards. His memoir, A Mouth Sweeter Than Salt, captures his childhood. A second memoir, Counting on the Tigers to Discover His Teenage Years, and a forthcoming one, Malaika and the Seventh Heaven, details his encounter with Excellence. For his contribution to the study of Africa, his students and colleagues have presented him with a set of 5 first systems, 2 edited by Adebayo Oyebade, The Transformation of Nigeria, Essays in Honor of Tony Falola, and The Foundation of Nigeria, Essay in honor of Tony Falola, one by Okin Ogiduran, Pre-Colonial Nigeria, Essay in honor of Tony Falola, and yet another by Nanan Ponsan, Beyond the Boundaries, the Tony Falola and the Art of General Building, Tony Falola, the Man, the Max, and the Muse present biocritical studies of his work in over 1,000 pages. 3 full-length books have been written on him, 2 by Abdul Bangura, examining his contribution to pedagogy, Tony Falola and Africa Epistemologies and Falolarism, the Epistemologies and Methodologies of African Knowledge. Sardis Hamka, the Dean of Law of the Free States, recently released a book titled Complex Interplay Between Power, Politics, and African Agency. The philosopher, a forthcoming book on him is by distinguished philosopher, Professor Senya Osha, titled The Echoes of Transdisciplinary Conversation with Tony Falola. He is the Bobby Patton of Ondo Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, please, with a round of applause, join me in welcoming the Bobby Patton of Ondo Kingdom, the Bobby Patton of Ivana Kingdom, and the renowned scholar of African history and African studies.
I did not pay for that introduction. Thank you very much. The chair of this occasion, please permit me not to read the lecture, but I will leave it behind so that you can share it. So as a public speaker, it is the audience that dictates how we present the lecture. And because we have so many students here, I'll be targeting the lecture to the students. If I were here for 2 days, I would have suggested there will be a seminar among faculty. I was very happy with the remark by the Chan Dean, because, like diviners, they understood what I wanted to talk about. They have not seen my lecture, but they fully understand it. I have been here before. I've been to this campus before. But what I've seen today is a remarkable expansion, new building projects. It is as if the campus has doubled and the city too has improved. The last time I came here, I was a guest of the government of Ghana under Ofor. I know all the country's presidents except one. I've interacted with them at very close contacts. I had breakfast with your current president last year, so I know all of them, Rector, Jerry Rawlings, all of them. So when Professor Edwin died, Kufuor set out to come, which I did. And I gave a public speech in Accra, followed them to Joabeng, and then when the president, we came to Kumasi for the final burial rites, and they loved me on this campus. It's a very beautiful campus, very expansive, and I've interacted with your students, and at the moment, Jonathan Oko, who is taking photographs, is a PhD student of mine that we recruited from this campus and is doing very, very well. Jonathan and I were completing a book on the social history of Ghana. If you are under 50 years, I know Ghana more than you. Because I've been coming here for over 50 years. And if you take the West African example,
examination council exam in history in the 70s and 80s, I was one of the ones who made your life difficult. Because I was setting the questions together with others. And we will meet here. So, I see Ghana as home. We don't just fight Ghana and Nigeria like jollof rice. It's a good fight that I welcome. And the way I resolve the fight is that the best rice is from Gambia. But we also fight over accents. An unnecessary fight. In Nigeria, they will say walk, you will say work. And you will see how they pronounce words very differently. So for those of you who are not familiar with my accents, we can do our fight later over how we pronounce words. So, let me start with, I deal in concepts, I don't deal in narratives. And I will start this lecture by talking about cosmovision. Cosmovision. Cosmovision is a concept that refers to how you accumulate your ideas and you accumulate those ideas into a vision. For instance, this university has a vision statement. It has a motto. And that's what we call cosmovision. Because what cosmovision does is that it allows you to articulate what you intend to do and to define your objectives more clearly. If I go to you one-on-one, all of us in this room, we have a vision statement, even if we don't state it. And if you are a student, you say you want to finish your degree, that's your mission. You just want to have your degree, that's your mission. So, there is no such country without cosmovision. So when you do comparative analysis, it's fine, but you make one mistake. That the cosmovision of the US and cosmovision of Ghana is not necessarily the same. And we have to be very, very careful when we compare things. I will return to that in my conclusion. But let's look at the cosmovision of our ancestors. Some of you don't like the word ancestral. Call Pentecostalists don't like that word. It's unfortunate. Because why would you call your ancestors evil people? University of Ghana. I chose Ghana to establish this field. Whether you are calm, You can disagree over these cosmologies, but you have to know it's created. If you are a Christian and you say Jesus Christ was born by Mary the Virgin, that is cosmology. So, if you go to the Fantail, the Akan, River Pra Basin, you are going to find limitless cosmologies. What those cosmologies do is to seek an explanation of the things they are able to create with mental facts, the things they don't understand, and their own imaginaries. All societies behave that way, whether you are white or Japanese or you're black. You first of all explain that which you know, because you already know true mental facts. But there are things you can never know. You can know them, maybe because of the level of your science or technology. But that does not mean you won't explain it. It doesn't mean you won't explain it. You explain it via cosmology. If you have been parents, your child may say, "Mommy, where do I come from?" You tell the child, "You are from my stomach." The baby will look like you. Which stomach? This stomach. And then you have to explain, where do you come from? And you find in all societies that mental facts must explain. It can lock it in secularism, as we do, but it can also lock it in mythologies, as many groups do. It is not true that it's only Africans who lock things in mythologies. All societies in the world do that. There's no such society. No. If you read the Quran, if you read the Bible, if you read our own religious texts, we explain. You have to explain. Fundamentally, you must explain the beginning of the cosmos. You have to explain it. That's what chapter 1 in the Bible does for you. It explains the beginning, and it says, 7th day God rested. And it must all, there is no African group that does not explain your origin and that of God. No. And then cosmology must explain, okay, if you say God created you, where is God? Where is he? You have to explain it. You can say it's in the sky, as some African groups do. But irrespective of how you explain it, there must be a concept of alienation. So, if there is God, why do you have to suffer? What's going on? You have to explain it. If you do not know the cosmology of alienation among your group as a student, go, just ask. They will tell you. And you have to explain challenges. Chapter 1, God asked Adam, where are you? He said, I'm naked. That is not the answer. Why did he say it's on top of a tree? God asked him, what state are you in? He said, where are you, Adam? He said, I'm naked. Who is asking him whether he's naked or not? But he understood the sins that he has committed. And then a pronouncement was made that he has to labor before he eats, which is why you are in school. To collect your degree, you have to suffer. If you don't suffer, there is no, if you don't go through pain, there is no gain for you. You understand? You can blame your professors as much as you want. It's better not to sleep and read and pass the exam. Cosmology explained that before you were born, you have to work for your food. We can't just give you degrees without A. And then cosmology will close the cosmos. Because it has to explain, okay, is the world not come to an end? It has to explain it. That's why you have the book of Revelations. It opens it for you, and it must close it for you. Whether you are Fante or Yoruba or Igbo, the chaplain will tell you they close the cosmos. This idea of closing the cosmos have been there since Pharaonic Egypt. And if you see what science has been doing, I can give you a long list where science and cosmologies have agreed. For instance, science will also tell you the world will come to an end. Just as you find in the Bible. The only explanation is that the sun has a lifespan. It reads like a mythology. And when the sun comes to an end, the world will end. That's what science tells you. But when you combine mental facts with artifacts and cosmologies, you have values. There is no society without values. What we emphasize is what is different. You can't create a group of human beings without values. That society will collapse. You don't even have to be a Christian or Muslim to believe. So, if you go via the Bible, you see 10 commandments. It's to hang society together. Because you are using those 10 commandments to create values for society. Whether you are Ewe, whether you are Kikuyu or Zulu, you have to create those values. Because without them, you are going to cannibalize yourself. So, our people created ideas around guilt, and they created ideas around shame in order to balance the workings of society. And after they've created that mental facts, artifacts, cosmologies, and values, they now say, this is how you want to put them to use. Because you have to use them. And what are you using them for? What you are using them for is an intellectual project by itself. Today, what we emphasize is that we are using them for development. That is what we emphasize. But bear in mind, there is no such society that was never created by God. It is the definition that is different. In the 18th century, there was no jobless African. No African was jobless. In the 18th century, there was no African that was homeless. If you find one, come and show me. And there was no African who could not put food on the table. You understand? Because when they combine those ideas with the values, they say this is what they want to use them for. Social cohesion, full employment, no homeless people. Fast forward, we have all those because the context changed and the definition changed. But why were they effective in the 18th century that I've just mentioned, and we are now struggling today? And you have to understand that when you combine the four elements that I've itemized, you can take any example you like from any African society and you will understand. I will take, for purposes of argument, because this is what scholars do. A cow. Let me take the cow. Take the cow, for instance. There is no component in the cow that it did not put to use. None. The horn they used. Today, they ship them to Japan to make furniture. They convert them to powder. You can convert the horn at the hoof for aesthetic purposes. Make your earrings. The skin, you know what to do with it. Jerry Rawlings, your former president, once joked that you go to Italy to go and buy expensive shoes after you have eaten the skin. The urine they use, the dung, when I was young, that's what we use as insulators. You use the cow dung to insulate your house to moderate the heat, and the dung we use to minimize dust. That's what we did. It will smell for 1 or 2 days, and you're fine. You're fine. And then you say, you kill the old cow, but where is the waste? There is no waste. If used one element of it for one reason or the other. Once you understand now move into how this ancestral knowledge is packaged. That it is a combination of multiple complex ideas. You can take elements you like. You can say you are taking the ideas without the cosmology. If you love culture and ideological problems, because some ideas operate as culture, they are not religion. Some ideas operate as combination of religion and culture. But any idea you look at, many of the ideas can separate both. Take the area of medicine. Plant will work without the incantations. The incantations are just to make them mysterious for you. Because people have studied plants. Contact medicine can work because they are chemicals. The plants are chemicals. We eat food as medicine. You can pray before you eat, but you don't also have to pray. It does not mean your food will not work. And you see how in that combination, if you do not like what you call the elements of religion, edit them out. And you will see the element of science and technology. So, in creating this new field, I've got a contract to write a book on it, which will be released next year. I also opened up a new conversation on African science and technology. And for the purposes of students who are here, you must understand the following. First, you cannot survive as a society without science and technology. There is no culture, no society that has no science. There's no such society ever created. You have to wear clothes. You have to eat. You're going to fall sick. You have to put food in containers. You have to preserve food. You may not understand what they are doing survive without science, and they cannot survive without technology. So, don't let anybody tell you, Akan people have no science. No, that's not correct. That is totally not correct. For your generation, here is what has happened. The cumulative achievement of technology, since many of these students were born, the world has never seen that before. Let me repeat. What you now enjoy as technology, in the last 30 years, the entire world since its creation has never seen that before. And because that rush, that success are so huge, you then don't pay attention to things that look small to you. And in the rush of artificial intelligence now, everything will look so small to you, forgetting that for centuries, the world has been shaped and reshaped, shaped and reshaped. When Muhammad was spreading Islam, they were walking and using donkey. When Jesus was doing his ministry, they were walking and using pack animals. If you are a Muslim, ask yourself, how did they get to Cairo? How did Mansa Musa get to Cairo? It's far, but that technology keeps changing, and it keeps changing until we are here. Today, I want to structure this conversation on this, because that way I'll begin to apply my concepts to the realities that you face. Epistemology is about how you think. But in this thinking, I will bring a subject that has changed the nature of this conversation. We call it encounters. Encounters. Encounters mean you've existed in your own space. You've been living your life. You've organized your way of thinking. You've organized your thought system. You've organized your production. You've organized your governance. You've organized your exchanges. Then another society, another group of people now came. In our own case, the Europeans came, and without understanding that moment of encounters, you cannot understand this subject, and you cannot understand what has happened to your science, you cannot understand what has happened to your technology, and you cannot understand why you do not appreciate what our forefathers have done. Here is what they have done. And I will introduce my second concept, and I will call it epistemic exclusion. I introduce cosmovision. Epistemic exclusion means, how do you erase the knowledge of other people? How do you make them resent themselves? How do you introduce ideas to them that will make it look as if they never generate their own ideas? And that concept of epistemic exclusion, you begin to change the nature of that society. You begin to compel them to debate themselves and to think differently. It's very powerful. When I was in college, like most of you, explaining encounter, the stress was on technology, that Africa was conquered by two guns. It is true. But as I became independent and I began to reflect on it, I began to shift the analysis to definition. On the way here, I saw one candidate who is competing to become the president of the student union. Is practicing to become a politician. You to be successful as a politician, you must define your opponent. If you are running for any office, including on campuses, you must define the person you are competing with. And you find it in relationship between you and your friends. You define your friends. If you say Paul is a bad person, you are also defining yourself. How do you know Paul is a bad person? Because you construct yourself as a good person. Because without constructing yourself as a good person, how do you know a bad person? You are the one defining the person. The challenge is if the person doesn't fight back to say you cannot define me that way, he's already in trouble. So look at the labels. Let's start with that concept of definition. If I ask you, what is the color of angel? What is it? You don't know the color of angel? White. If you don't know the color, I can send two of you to heaven and you will come back. What is the color of Satan? Do you look like a Satan? Are you a Satan? You are not. Very good. But you know, if you have a car, just a car, and your car breaks down, you want to change the battery. What is the color for positive? You don't have a car? Red. And what is the color for negative? Black. If you are an African, would you ever say that the Satan is black? Well, it will not even occur to you that somebody who looks like you is a Satan. Why would that occur to you? And if you are the one who invented the battery, why will you call the positive white? You will never, it won't occur to you, and you call the negative black. Why will it occur to you? Looking at yourself. And that definition resides in language, in thinking, in characterizing other people. And is a product of conquest. So, my fellow students, be careful when people are defining you, because it is an act of conquest. And in that definition, you are manipulating that definition for epistemic exclusion, epistemic suicide, and epistemic damages. And over time, they will begin to accept it. So, let us look at how you have been defined. They said Africa without history. That's what they said, the dark continent. If you say Africa without history, where is the technology? It won't exist. If you say Africa without history, where is the science? It will not exist. Because you have already damaged them and you've already told them, well, they don't have a history. If somebody doesn't have a history, can they have technology? No. You've done an epistemic definition, creating a disaster. Because why are you searching for that which has no history? But how can that be possible? How could they have existed until that encounter? And then they move forward. By the 1920s, they elevated that conversation, Africa without change. That's how we were described, including your ancestors. How can can you describe the people without change? They were created millions of years ago. They succeeded the Stone Age. On their own, they moved beyond the Stone Age. When they move beyond the Stone Age, that's technology, remember. It is not that there are no more stones. There are stones. If you leave this building, you are going to find stones. On their own, they created remarkable technology based on metallurgy. Bronze Age, Iron Age. They created, that is technology. What we now talk about AI today, in centuries ago, the Iron Age was very remarkable. It was the same achievement. They moved further. They created the agricultural revolution. That is technology and science. And they combined the Iron Age with the Agric Age to create big empires, to create societies. But if you say it's a continent without change, you've eliminated all those achievements. The continent was the center of technology, the center of science. And then they moved further in the 90s. A continent without governance. A continent without governance. How can you say that? They said it. And in the 1990s, when they said a continent without governance, they began to make two proposals. First, why don't you reconquer them? Why don't you recolonize them? They said it, go and recolonize them. That was the conversation of the 90s. And they said, by 5 years to the end of the last century, they coined the concept an impending anarchy. An impending anarchy. That by the time you get to 2000, 2001, this entire continent, you will have cannibalized yourself and you exist no more. If you have no evidence, I can send you literature to read. The Atlantic published an essay called An Impending Anarchy. I will return to that conversation. And subsequently they said a continent without democracy. See, from the 19th century to today, you are being condemned and condemned and condemned and condemned. A continent without change, a continent without development, a continent without governance. So once you use those epistemologies, what else do you see? You're not going to see those things that are good. But if you interrogate two conversations ongoing, you have to match artificial intelligence. That's your generation. Wait. Another AI. We have two AI. And this is what you should take away from my lecture. We also have ancestral intelligence. That's the AI. The cumulative achievement of ancestral intelligence is far greater than that of artificial intelligence. You are all here. Your parents are all here. Your ancestors are watching this lecture from heaven because of ancestral intelligence. From the program, they gave me 30 minutes, but I do not know how much time I spent. For students, do not anyone tell you that your forefathers did not create science. It is not true. And don't let anyone mislead you that they did not create technology. It is not true. The dean has alluded to some of these achievements. And I will quickly rush through a few ones. Our agriculture was very successful, extremely successful. If it was not successful, they would not have produced you and I. Watch settlement patterns. They live in environments that supply food, that supply security, and that supply medicine. There is no African society that did not consider those. You are going to be born, you are going to be sick, you are going to die. All those are considered. You will need water. And they did what we don't do now. They eat food as medicine. That's what they did. Go back to the food of your own people and you will see the ability to combine nutrition with medicine. So, as you abandon that past, we leave behind environmental diseases that you can manage, and we have now replaced them with lifestyle diseases. Now, the percentage of diabetes is high because of the food we eat. You have to take medication for blood pressure because of the food you eat. Because as you abandon the food that they created, replacing them with noodles and sabawa and others you eat, you are also creating problems for your body. Serious problem. And let me take two examples. Bitter leaf. Bitter leaf is medicinal. It's medicine. That's what you're just basically eating medicine. It's you who call it food, but you're eating medicine. And you find where they eat a lot of pepper is antibacterial. That's what they are doing. They are protecting you from serious bacterial fight. And there are outside this room who chew cola. It allows you to secrete saliva and it produces medicine for you. The bitter cola is medicine. Science has confirmed that it's medicine you're taking when you chew. Now, you may not know about appropriation. That agri and the products you have abandoned, they are now appropriated. A Ghanaian scholar, his father is also a scientist, Abena Osei wrote a book. 6 plants stolen from Ghana. They were Ghanaian plants. They came here, they stole them, they convert them to pharmaceuticals. Appetite reduction is Zulu. They converted it. village, no farmer will wake up to be eating 3 meals. You won't be able to bend down. You understand? Even myself as a professor, and if I eat 3 meals, I will not be able to write 2 pages. I have to eat 2 meals to be able to function. After you eat rice in the morning and pounded yam in the afternoon, you say you want to write a paper. Which paper? You are going to fall asleep. What paper are you talking about? And let me tell you, who was the farmer who was having dinner at 8 p.m.? You are having dinner at 8 p.m. because there is electricity. If you are using the moon, you're going to have your dinner at 5 p.m. And if you have your dinner at 5 p.m. and don't eat till the next day, your body will be very active. Anything I'm telling you, go test it out. That will self-destruct ourselves. We destroy ourselves. Now today they are saying you should become a vegetarian. What do you think Africans have been doing? They were vegetarians. Which meat? Where is the cow? Even when I was young, in this modern society, who is eating chicken every day? We ate chicken for Christmas and Easter. Where will your father get the money to eat chicken every day? In fact, if they catch you eating chicken, they will say you are not going to succeed in life. In this world, eating egg and chicken every day. We're just eating vegetables. And they drink palm wine. Go and study palm wine. It allows you, when you wake up the next day, to wake up well. There is something in it which scientists have remarked upon. But there are elements of this agreed in terms of the food, soil fertility techniques, terracing, water harvesting that we can use. The area of medicine and pharmacology, I think there's a consensus that about medicine works. Forget that incantation. The consensus is clear that if you know how to use garlic and other things, it improves on your immune system. That's how we survived COVID. That's how we survived it. So things we take for granted are medicine. And take the area of calendar, astronomy, we are very successful. Stone architecture, Zimbabwe, we are very successful. You've condemned mud building because you don't understand them. You don't understand the logic. And we are very, very successful. Iron and steel, we are very successful. Environmental knowledge, we are very successful. Mathematics and measurement, we are very successful. Some of you do not know that there's African mathematics. Go and read books on African mathematics. We are very successful. We are very successful in textile and dyeing. This cloth I'm wearing is from northern Ghana. It's just my design. We have been very, very successful. Very successful in issues of sustainable development, adaptation, healthcare. And we have been very successful in the techniques of food preservation. You enjoy dry fish. Do you know the origin of it? It's about preservation. And if you look at the components of what you enjoy, you will see many elements. The chairman of this cooperation permit me to move to my conclusion. I can keep talking, but I know you have your own assignments. I want to conclude by saying, first, let us promote plural knowledge economy. I am not not saying we should reject Western ideas. I've not said that, and I will never say that. But that we must promote pluriversalism, not universalism. Plural knowledge system. We take Western chemistry, we take our own. We take Western history, we take African history. Let us promote a plural knowledge system. That's the first takeaway. Second, we must pay attention to epistemic injustice. That our people have been damaged historically. Our contributions have been damaged. Ancestral science has been damaged. Ancestral technology has been damaged. That is what we call epistemic injustice. And we have to restore this justice by saying we should not be silent about what we have inherited. And what we have inherited is a lot. It's a lot. And we should not silence knowledge. My third conclusion is that we must respect the continuity with the past. And I want to use the COVID experience to make this point very clear. More Americans died during COVID than Africans. How do you know that? How come you didn't die? You know they say you're going to die on the streets. That's what they say. How come you didn't die? They say in Western knowledge system, you do not know about isolation. Do you remember they said that? They say you don't know about quarantine. How we have not forgotten they said that? And they said you don't know about vaccination. That is Western knowledge. Okay. When you challenge that, Africans have been doing isolation since the Pharaonic time. How do you think we cure epilepsy? How do you think we cure leprosy? How do you think we cure mental illness? How do you think we cure depression? We should have been curing. And they said we can't quarantine. Who told you we can't quarantine? They've been quarantining forever. They even set up quarantine ritual spaces. They set up forest medical spaces. They've been doing this for centuries. And the most annoying is that they say we don't know about viruses. Who told you? This is one of the best continents ever created that understand viruses. They understood smallpox very well. They understood all these diseases. Not only did they understand them, they created gods and goddesses around them. Just to tell you the level of that understanding. When I was born in 1953, I was born into the world of Shamana smallpox, chickenpox. They understood them. It is you who is running away from what they are prescribing for you to use. The problem is solved before you were born, which we don't understand, and they also understand assimilation. And I use myself as an example. If I remove my shirt from my head, you are going to see many incisions. When I was causing trouble, they choked me. They put incision on my head. They put incision for me to know Western knowledge. Sure, they do it in Ghana as well. Incision is fascination. It's just taking medicine to your blood system. It is the name they call it that is different from the name we call it. You will call the body and rub the medicine into it. So, let me close by making some suggestions that we should create new degrees and new courses around culture and technology. If you are not already doing that, there must be BSc Culture and Technology. They relate. Don't let anyone deceive you to eliminate your culture from the way your technology is developing. Because essentially it's about the use and what you want to put it to. And as we create new ideas, we begin to benefit from a plural knowledge system. And we give projects to students. The honors thesis link an element of culture to an element of technology. Secondly, our chairman and all the distinguished students, let us fuse locality with globalism. We have to fuse them. I am not saying reject Western ideas. I have not said that. I'm just saying that locality you must combine with globalism. I'm not asking you not to go to London. Go there. But remember, you must have localism. Take our achievements, and I will just list three. It is that combination that made them very successful. Take Afrobeats, for instance. When that boy, I shall care that video. Listen to it. I know all the songs very well. I can sing them for you. Check what they have done. Just take what they have done. Those Lagos boys, in their small room with their cell phone, fuse Western instruments with local idioms. Ugalolo is not English word now. When you fall on the sofa. He's writing his poetry. Collect your money. You know the song. Are you pretending to be proposed that you don't know the song? You know the song. You know the song. Or Jerusalem, or I'm unavailable, or Kiss Daniel. I know Abuja City. I'm in town. I'm a club I do. Without that localism, Afrobeats will not be successful. It will not. Or take our design. The woman that introduced this convention, the very beautiful woman, and I wasn't looking at her, where is she now? See the dress she's wearing. Look at just the fabric. That is localism. And look at my fabric. It makes me handsome. I'm a handsome man. But just look at it. Go to the restaurants in Lagos or Accra. Notice the food you order. The soup. The big bowl with bamboo inside it. The swimming pool. With the snail and the skin. How come you don't say they should give you Western food when you get there? Why are you eating our food? It is because we are connected with it. And I also would like to suggest, as in this process of the fusion of the local with the global, that you must realize that is not peculiar to us. All societies do that. When you buy a small car, miniature television, made in Japan, is a product of culture. They don't have space to put a big television. They don't have the roads to put a big car. And the pioneer, the combination of that culture with technology, produces items that are small that you can use. So don't let anyone deceive you. You cannot win the Nobel Prize. You cannot win any major award. You cannot transform this university if you ignore the locality and culture. You must have read things all about that change. Without people ideas, it will not be famous. We lost Umugi. Without the Kikuyu language, it will not be famous. Shoyinka won the Nobel Prize based on Ogun, the Yoruba god of Hayo. And I'm here with 30 honorary doctorates because I took many of my ideas from our ancestors. Thank you very much.
Let's better for Professor Folale. Let's do better for him, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly take your seats. I'm sure we have a lot of questions. So it's time for the interactive session. We'll take our first set of questions, 5 questions for Prof. So if you have any question, kindly move forward and ask your question. Prof is here to answer it for you. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof. I'm very happy and delighted that for the first time I've met you. I'm KNUST-TEK. I'm one of your few ardent readers on African history, partly because my scholarship relates in that area. I'm a scholar in religious studies and a professor in the Department of Religion and Human Development. The question I have is in respect of the theme of your presentation on systemic knowledge, which you emphasize about the need for plural knowledge system. I want to know how can we reconcile this in respect of rational choice theory. Especially for students who are more rationally inclined, would always want to compare an issue relative to other systems, whether European or Asian and whatever, to choose the best. Now we have seen even the very fabric that we wear being produced from China of high quality, whereas our northern fabric or producers are facing challenges of marketing due to the quality. How can we reconcile this? The second question is, you also raised a point about epistemic extension, or how would I say, yes, extension. I'm raising this question in relation to religious demography in Africa, Africa did not only experience more of political domination, but cultural onslaught from the West in diverse ways, and especially in redefining African religions. To the extent that the person speaking is a Muslim, and I know 80% of the students here religious. When you look into the denomination, Christian 40%, Muslim 40%, 10% is African traditional religion. So, and the question is, some Africans are now going for more of like hybrid religious identity. Do you think it is a good omen, or is it totally a lost situation that we ourselves? We have been colonized culturally. Sorry, thank you. And religious.
Kindly, let's make our questions very short and brief. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof, for your very educated and insightful. I like the idea of definition, and also something that you say, which I would describe as the creation of false consciousness, and how that false consciousness is used as basis for how people are subjectified and, if you like, individualized and given a particular identity which they come to believe. How do we solve that problem? How do we solve that problem? Because for me, I think it's both a mental problem or maybe a cosmological problem. But you tell me, how do we solve that problem of false consciousness created about the African identity? Thank you.
With integration and infusion, as you said. You see, most especially African scholars, are trying their best to redefine the African image, but in the presence of integration and certain level of standards that is being regulated by Western fronts, our voices are not heard, because there are agendas that are being regulated by Western fronts. So if you are a scholar and you are to write, you are inclined to side with these Western regulations. So what should we do differently to best maneuver these systems? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am Anthony. I am a student in the Department of Religion. My question is, from what you have said, we have two AIs, ancestral intelligence, artificial intelligence. Where do we go from here, looking at the next 50 years of Africa? Where do we place that in the face of global rising technology and the global increase in AI, which is artificial intelligence? Thank you.
So Bob will take the questions, then we'll take the next set of questions. That's the first question.
So, let me start with the last question. For those of you who are not happy with the continent, let me take this opportunity that you should pray for long life. Because as Christians will say, there is salvation. This is one of becoming successful. The demographics bore us more than any other continent. Declining population in Europe. China used to be better than us, but it's declined to 700 million people. Not only are we going to grow to 2.2 billion in your lifetime, the demographics is going to be the most youthful in the world. And you cannot have a youthful population. You cannot without achieving success. It's not possible. You know, my father had 9 of us. And there are 2 options. Either he must go out to look for money to feed us, or if he stays inside, we'll eat him. You cannot have these demographics and the politician and the state will not adjust. They will be in trouble. Serious one. They have to expand the education system, they have to fund projects, they have to create jobs for you, and many of you will migrate. Don't anyone deceive you when they abuse migration. Let me tell you what you do not know. The people who are abusing you migrated to us before you begin to go to them. You understand? Do you know how many people migrated from Netherlands to South Africa? The Dutch people who are living there created the Afrikaner language. They were the first to migrate. Are we the one who migrated to Australia? Are we the one who migrated to Brazil and abused? The Nigerians travel with Columbus. So they've been migrating. They were migrating before us. You know how many millions of French people live in Algeria? Between 1936 and 1975, under Caetano, when you finish your degree in Portugal, the state will give you a ticket to go to Angola. Go, leave the country, because there are no jobs for you. What you now do with the migration, whether you connect diaspora with Africa, is what we should worry about. You can't stop human beings. You can't stop human beings from moving. If tomorrow there are jobs in Gambia, people will go there. That is how human beings have been doing historically. We deal with movements. That's what we have been doing. So, we are at the frontiers of culture. As I'm standing for you, that cultural economy, we have not fully exploited it. Millions of jobs just around culture alone. Millions of jobs around the clothes you don't, you just think, what is this? Around the music, what is this? Nollywood. These are millions of jobs. Our stories are endless. How we are going to empower the rise and development of this culture is what we should be thinking about. And as we develop our educational system, we're empowering our youth to be part of the creation of the dynamic economy. I made 2 suggestions for universities. 1, let's set up incubation centers. I don't know whether I didn't ask the provost whether you have incubation centers. Incubation centers mean that The university consciously encourage young men and women to bring their inventions. They have to open an office. They have to award prizes for inventions, and they have to call industries to come and see what they have invented. Let me tell you, there is no great university without incubation centers. The example you know, Stanford and Google. This was 3 students incubated on campus. We have incubators on my campus. Dell was our student. He left after the first year. The Google boys did not finish. My son has created his own company. What universities do is to say you are going to share percentages. You are going to share percentages. If the university knows that you pay me for this lecture, they are going to collect a third of it. So they are also marketing me to go and give lectures and they pay. So that they can collect their own 30%. So I think we also have to repeat this entire process. Here is what is going on. In the area of technology, the best people are teenagers and those in their 20s. Not people like me. And not people like the provost. There are people like the students, and the ones who are the smartest. What we need to do is to tap that smartness. You think they cannot create cell phones? They can. You think they cannot convert garbages to electricity? They can. But we don't trust them. And the syllabus, the way we create the curriculum, does not involve them. And this is why we have to be borrowing from other systems. By the time, say, maybe I have to come back. I'm inviting myself. By the time you enter school to get a degree, by the time you finish, they've created other courses. New courses are back. If you apply to my campus as an undergraduate and many campuses, and they say what subject, you will say undecided. Undecided is the highest percentage of those who are applying for first degree. What do they mean by undecided? I don't know what I want to do. What is wrong with that? But here I will insist, you must know what you want to do. No, because many of these young people know too many things. They know too many things. They enter as undecided. Do you know they can remain undecided? Once they finish the credit hours, they will call them to the office. What should we call your degree? You just have the label on it. Third year, my daughter, first daughter, you just say my degree. Engineering roots to business. That's the title of my degree. Engineering roots to business. They look at everything you know. There are people in this room, they know electricity, they know history, they know geography. No problem. They will create your own degree for you. And we have to know that this new generation, it does not mean that it's history or chemistry alone that this 17-year-old kid knows. They know other things. And we have to repaint the system. I was telling I met briefly with graduate students in history. I was telling them that they don't link those things the way we do. If you apply to my department for a PhD, you can say your first degree is physics. You are the person because if you are a physicist and you do history, you will write a different kind of history. And that is how society moves forward with innovations. And some of these things, we have just to repeat the entire system. Double majors, triple majors. On one day in an American university, you can have 3 degrees. The same convocation. You can have BSc chemistry, BA history, you can give you 3 degrees. I'm sure the dean and the pros, they know this. Most students say, I don't want 1 degree. Okay, do 2 more courses. We give you 2 degrees on the day you do convocation. We have to begin to say what works for us and how are the jobs, what are the jobs of the future. And I will use my daughter as an example. I did not know that you can combine engineering with business. And before she left school, she got so many jobs. I did not know until I met my own daughter that when you buy anything, there's a leaflet inside it. You know when you buy a cell phone, when you buy a car, you know there's a manual. I did not know it was an occupation. I did not know. Because for those who write those manuals, you have to know engineering and you have to know marketing. I did not know. I don't know about Ghana. The parents in Nigeria know only 3 jobs. It's only 3 jobs they know. You must be a lawyer. Where are the jobs are for the lawyer? You must do medicine. AI is going to take over that job very quickly. And you must do engineering. There are so many occupations that parents are not aware, and which the universities must supply ideas. I love the question of religion and rationality. Rationality, there is no society that is not rational. It is when we move to another generation. I think he has left. Oh, we have not left. It's when we move to another generation that we don't accept that rationality anymore. Take masquerade. You cannot tell any student here that the masquerade comes from heaven. You know that. As they told your generation. But it does not mean that the masquerade will disappear. We just take the cosmology out of it. Look at the brilliance. Do you know the economy of Louisiana thrived on Mardi Gras and jazz? After 80 revolution, people fled with the Yoruba and Ghanaian masquerade. They took it to Louisiana. They converted it to Mardi Gras. And now it's one of the biggest events that generate money for that state. That rationality is generation bound. You don't have to accept it, but you can modify it. And then we tend to separate faith from mythology. On the one hand, we accept faith. You understand? You can't be a Christian if you don't accept faith. But you do not see the same mythologies in other cultures as explaining the system of knowledge. I've written 2 books in this area. One, I call it Sacred Words. I don't know whether you're familiar with churches that speak in tongues. Right? I call them sacred words. And I went to study incantations. And I combined incantation with psalm and sacred word to write a book. Let's call them sacred words, belief system. They are sources of power. And if you look at them, you can't be is saying, where is the rationality in Psalm? The Lord is my shepherd. You believe it, it works. It just works for you. Human beings are looking for ways to balance their emotions. The Lord's Prayer will work for you like medicine, as long as you believe in it. If you have faith, Jesus Christ said, you can command the mountain to move. You can't say, give me the evidence. Where am I going to get the evidence from? You can ask the chaplain. It's faith. Look at me. I want to get back to Accra tomorrow. I put something in my mouth and I raise my leg. I'm there.
Thank you so much, Prof. Let's take our last two questions. Last two questions. One here, one there. Only students.
Thank you, Prof, for your brilliant presentation. Yes. Prof, I'm wondering, in this presentation, the definitions of development has been critiqued. That if we talk about development from where or what to where, and in your presentation you talked about the ancestral intelligence, and I'm asking, what are the missing tools or framework in terms of ancestral intelligence for productivity? You cited health, but we've long looked at, for instance, the pyramids of Egypt. Where are the missing framework and the tools that we can apply as Africans in this modern time for productivity? Thank you.
Hello. So thank you very much, Prof. My name is Janice, and my question has to do with continuity. One of my fears is ensuring cultural continuity, or in other words, preservation of ancestral intelligence. Because, for instance, I don't really go for grounds, and when I do, I just don't understand any of the things that they are doing there. So how do we, as young people, partake in the preservation of ancestral knowledge and cultural preservation so that we can ensure continuity?
Okay, as this is my last opportunity to talk in this great venue, let me thank the organizers, all of you, for inviting me. I'm very grateful. Let me thank the students for coming. I hope you learn one or two things and you reflect on a few things, and you also disagree. If you disagree, we call that intellectual achievement, because you can't disagree unless you understand what you are disagreeing with. Disagreement moves scholarship forward. We don't want to raise students who will be going back to the sender in their exam. We want to raise people who will disagree with us, challenge us, and say they want to rethink. Innovations are the foundation of progress. So, if you disagree with me, I'm also very, very happy. So thank you all. I love the questions. And what you call tools are tools and outcomes are limitless. Suppose you go home and you begin to pay attention to things and you modify them. That is very good. Since I suggested the foundation of this discipline, some people have taken it up. I met a university pro-chancellor on Tuesday. He said, look, they want to create a center around it. It is not that we have not generated ideas. It is not true. But we've made two mistakes. We did not run with those ideas. We have to run with the idea. And we have not invested resources in making those ideas possible. If I take the Yoruba people, for instance, because those are the ones I know best, the fourth king of Oyo Empire, one of the best empires, one of the greatest empires, created before the British knew about modern constitution. The fourth king, his name was Shango, was the god of thunder. He was emitting fire from his mouth and he was commanding rain. If you study what the king did, he was doing electromagnetics, thermodynamics. I don't think there's any African culture where you don't find the mythology of the flight. Coming to this room, I've seen two witches. Should I locate them for you? It's you. No. I'm glad you laugh. But witchcraft is an idea that you can conquer. You can create a conclave in the middle of the night that I can eat your blood for dinner. Eh? It's an idea. So, you can create ideas. These ideas are serious ways of thinking. But you have to move with them. What is fax machine? What is internet? Go to every African culture. 500 years ago, they were already talking about it. They were already talking about, there was this Ghanaian person who said he went to Japan. Where did he go? And didn't catch a flight. His name escaped me. They've been thinking about these ideas. Because that's the way society works. I'm a writer. I do my memoirs. I can tell you the stories about heaven. You must have read the stories about heaven in the Bible and the Quran. Did they go there? They were not there. You can do serious intellectual imaginations. I can imagine there is gold under this building. Then you have to say, can I invent the tools to discover the gold? What we do is that we lock our ideas in unchangeable metaphysics. Not that we don't have these ideas. And your generation will take these ideas and you convert them to science. And this is what we hope you'll be able to do to transform yourself and to transform us. And I pray that this university will be one of the leading institutions that will transform Africa as a continent. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an interactive session on ancestral science and technology. by Professor Toyin Falola from the University of Texas, Austin, USA. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a big round of applause for such a wonderful presentation. We can do it better. We can do it better for Prof. Very soon we'll be coming to the end of the public lecture, but before that, I would have a short musical interlude by KNUST-TEK, a very short one. Thank you so much, speakers. I think probably didn't get a share of what they were talking about. They were talking about the fact that it's so hard to study, particularly in the Bangkok University of Science and Technology. 4 years in this institution is not easy. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure once more to invite Prof. Toyin on the stage together with the Provost of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, and the Chairman for the Public Lecture Committee of the Faculty of Social Sciences for a very short presentation.
Yes. Prof, we'll have a great time with you. But some of us started enjoying you even before the lecture. I think that together with our students, we have even have a greater time with you. And to express our joy and appreciation even for coming here. Prof, we want you to remember us by when you get back home. And so, we have here KNUST-TEK coming to the university. I mean, Prof said that those, if you are doing those 15 years, you go to speak more than you. And so you entered under this chair, right? And we also have here the first president of Ghana, whom he's the only person who didn't talk to. Yeah. And his name at the university. And so, Prof, this is one of the token of our appreciation for you. We want you to